Okay guys, essay 4, brainstorming, clustering, and free writing. So at this point in the semester, you should know how to brainstorm, cluster, and free write. Okay, when you're brainstorming, you're making a list of ideas. When you're clustering, you're doing clustering, you're making a kind of a mind map. And when you're free writing, you're just getting your ideas out on paper. So at this point, I'm not going to need to teach you how to do this. I just want you to apply the principles that you've learned so far this semester to this issue. What will you brainstorm, cluster, or free write about? Well, this is what I would suggest. If I were going to be, let's suppose I'm going to brainstorm, and maybe I'm going to make the argument, and I'm going to come back to it, Vincennes University should build a water park. Maybe I like water parks. Hey, it's not the worst thing in the world, but maybe that's my argument. Well, in that case, I'm going to need to think about a few things. Okay, so I know my argument is the water park, okay? But what I need to do is think of reasons why this is true. Well, maybe I'm thinking more money for the university. Maybe more money for VU. I'm thinking about happier students. I'm thinking about maybe the community might like it. Maybe I'm going to have a happier community. Maybe let's see, what are some other ones? Now, see, this is the thing. I should be able to think of more, right? And I should be able to think of the big ones, but I should also be able to think of a bunch of little things that go along with it. Perhaps if there's a water park, I will also be able to have a happier faculty. Well, maybe one of you guys can prove this to the president, right? Get this approved. A happier faculty. Right? Man, I would love to work for a place that has a water park. That's an amazing fringe benefit. That would be great. Okay, so those are 4 reasons. Well, maybe I would say, okay, happier community. Well, let's brainstorm on why this would be true. What are some things I could say about the happier community? Why would this be true? Well, if I have a water park and the community can use it, maybe they can use it for a discounted price. Okay, I'm coming up with ideas here. So maybe they would have a discounted price, maybe they would have more fun. They would have fun at the water park. They would have fun with their kids. Maybe their children would love it. All sorts of things here, things to do for their teens. Teenagers are always trying to figure out, okay, man, there's nothing to do. Okay, that's something to do. And so the community would have some things. Okay, happier students. Well, why would the students be happier? Oh, okay, more money for the university. Well, how would that work? Not only am I trying to come up with reasons that are kind of general reasons why my argument is a good argument, I'm trying to come up with those little details too. I'm trying to brainstorm, cluster, or free write about the details. Now, let's suppose, okay, that's all well and good, but we also know that we have to brainstorm, cluster, or free write about, let's get this off here. Okay. We need to brainstorm, cluster, and free write about possible objections that the audience might make. So let's do that too. So your brainstorming, clustering, and free writing for this essay should be much more robust. I want a lot more thinking on paper, and you're going to need to really try to just, try to think of things and then come back to it. Think of things and come back to it. Because you want your argument to be perfect. You want it to be something that a person reads and they're not saying, well, why didn't you talk about this thing? That seems like an obvious thing that you should have talked about. You don't want that to happen. So let's think about this. You're going to have a refutation paragraph. And we're going to talk about that. We talked about that in the other video on the different things you have to have in this essay. The refutation paragraph, you're coming up with possible objections to your argument. So what are some possible objections? Okay, so we're going to brainstorm about those things too. Okay, so there's objection 1, objection 2, objection 3. Now, which one of those objections is actually a decent objection, right? So nobody's going to object to the water park because they're afraid that sharks are going to somehow appear in the water park and then eat everybody, right? That's ridiculous, right? So you can pretty much say none of those, you shouldn't make it ridiculous. But you might say, well, it seems like a water park would only be open in the summer months, and the students are pretty much only here in the winter months. How would this benefit the students? It seems like it wouldn't make any sense. That would be a pretty strong objection, right? And if you come up with an objection that's really strong, that's probably one that you're going to need to address in your essay. So what you're going to need to do is brainstorm some answers. How would you answer this? How would you overcome this objection? And you need to be able to do that for your argument to be believable. So when you're brainstorming, not only are you going to brainstorm things that are going to help your argument, but you'll need to brainstorm things that the audience, who is probably already against your argument, what are things that audience will probably bring up that you're going to need to overcome or address in your essay. And so you'll come up with those things, and then you'll come up with some things that you might use to say, well, okay, I get your objection, but that objection doesn't make sense, or this is the answer to your question, okay? Yes, we're only open in the summer months, but summer enrollment is something that we could increase. There's no reason why we wouldn't want to increase summer enrollment. It just so happens that normally students come in the winter months, but maybe we should start looking at how to improve summer enrollment. Or maybe you might say something like, well, yeah, it's only open then, but if we make it an indoor water park, it could be year round. Think about possible ways you could overcome that objection. So when you're brainstorming, clustering, and free writing, no matter what you're doing, I'm just doing the brainstorming for the sake of this video, but no matter what you're doing, you're going to come up with reasons why your side is right. Things that you need to bring up in your essay in order to prove this thing to your audience. And then you're also going to need to come up with things that you're likely, some roadblocks, some objections that your audience is probably going to come up with that you're going to need to address. That way, you're prepared and you can design your essay in a way that makes your argument in a strong, robust way so that it's going to convince your readers. All right, that's what we're doing for brainstorming, clustering, and free writing. Go ahead and get started.